Think back to October 1974. You wake up with a scratchy throat and a bit of a cough. You aren't reaching for a hand sanitizer. You aren't checking a digital thermometer with a laser. You just walk into the kitchen, your mom feels your forehead with the back of her hand and says, "You're fine, go catch the bus." By the time you reach the bus stop, you've forgotten you were even feeling off. You spend the day in a classroom with 30 other kids, share a drink from the same garden hose after school, and play in the dirt until the streetlights come on. By the time you get home for dinner, the cough is gone. You didn't get sick for a week. You didn't miss school. You didn't even think about it. Looking back, it feels like a different planet. Today, a single sneeze can shut down a household for days. We have a pharmacy in every cabinet, a doctor on every screen, and a sanitized version of everything we touch. And yet, we seem to be getting sicker more often than ever. This isn't just about toughness. This isn't just a memory playing tricks on us. There were real, physical reasons why you rarely got sick in the 1970s. This is the story of the era of immunity. The decade your body became a fortress, and the day the world started to become too clean for our own good. To understand why the 1970s generation was so resilient, you have to look at the three pillars of the era: the diet, the dirt, and the distance. Let's start with the diet. In 1974, the American grocery store was a simpler place. If you walked down the aisles of the A&P, you didn't see the thousands of low-fat or heart-healthy labels that dominate the shelves today. We didn't have high-fructose corn syrup yet. That only started to flood the market in the late 70s as a cheap substitute for sugar. We ate real butter, we drank whole milk, we ate eggs and bacon without fear. Because we weren't eating processed foods, we were eating meals. A typical dinner in 1974 was meat, a vegetable, and a starch. It was cooked in a cast iron pan or a Pyrex dish. There were no seed oils like soybean or canola oil hiding in every single bite. Your cellular walls were built out of stable fats, not the industrial oils that we now know cause inflammation in the body. You were less inflamed in 1974, and when your body isn't fighting internal inflammation, it's much better at fighting external viruses. Then there was the dirt factor. Today, parents carry antibacterial wipes in their pockets. We sanitize the grocery cart handles. We use alcohol gel the moment we touch a doorknob. We have created a world that is sterile. In 1974, sterile was for hospitals. Your playground wasn't made of recycled rubber mats. It was made of gravel, dirt, and rusted iron. If you fell and scraped your knee, you wiped the dirt off with your hand and kept running. If you were thirsty, you drank from the hose, the same hose that had been sitting in the sun all day, growing a layer of algae that probably gave you more antibodies than a modern vaccine. We were constantly exposed to microbes. Scientists call this the hygiene hypothesis. Essentially, by being exposed to germs early and often, your immune system learned how to distinguish between a real threat and a harmless piece of dust. By the time you were 12, your immune system was an elite special forces unit. It had seen everything. It had fought everything. When a cold virus entered your system in 1974, your body didn't panic. It just took care of business. And let's not forget the distance. In the 1970s, you moved. The bus stop wasn't at your front door. It was 3 blocks away. If you didn't take the bus, you rode your Schwinn Stingray. You didn't have a screen to keep you on the couch for 6 hours a day. If you wanted to see your friends, you had to physically go find them. You were getting vitamin D before we even knew why it was important. You were out in the sun, soaking up the natural fuel for your immune system, while walking or biking miles every single week. Your blood was pumping, your lymph nodes were draining, and your lungs were getting actual fresh air. Your lymphatic system, the part of the body that clears out toxins and waste, doesn't have a pump. It only moves when you move. In 1974, your pump was always running, but there was also the mindset of the era. In 1975, being sick wasn't an identity, it was a nuisance. If you stayed home from school, it wasn't a vacation. There was no cable TV. There was no internet. You sat in a dark room with a bowl of soup and listened to the hum of the refrigerator. Staying home was boring. You wanted to be better. You were motivated to get back to the world. And the remedies? They was as tough as you were. Think back to the mercurochrome. If you had a cut, your mom didn't reach for a painless urine spray. She reached for the little glass bottle with the plastic wand. She painted a bright orange stripe on you. It stung. It burned. It was literally liquid mercury. We didn't know it was a poison. We just knew that if it stung, it was working. If you had a cough, you got Vicks VapoRub slathered on your chest and feet. It was so strong it would clear your sinuses from across the room. It felt like your skin was on fire, but by morning, you were breathing clear. We didn't have cold and flu multi-symptom pills that suppressed everything. We just powered through. So what changed? In the 1980s and 90s, we sanitized ourselves out of our own strength. We removed the real fats from our diet and replaced them with chemicals. We moved our kids inside to protect them. We started using antibiotics for every minor sniffle, effectively training the germs to be stronger and our bodies to be weaker. We traded our fortress for a glass house. Look at us today. We are the most medicated, most protected generation in human history, and yet we feel more fragile. We have seasonal allergies that didn't exist in 1974. We have autoimmune disorders that have skyrocketed. When we look back at that October day in 1974, we aren't just missing the youth. We are missing the resilience. We miss the body that didn't need a bio break every 2 hours. We miss the system that was built on sun, dirt, and real food. Think about the measles party. In 1974, if your neighbor's kid came down with the chickenpox, your mom didn't worry about social distancing. She didn't keep you locked inside. She did the opposite. She grabbed your coat, walked you over to their house, and told you to play in the bedroom with the sick kid for an hour. It sounds insane today. We think of it as child endangerment. But in the 1970s, it was the ultimate act of parental wisdom. We knew that you were going to get it eventually, and we knew that it was much safer to get it while you were young, when your body was resilient and the stakes were low. By the time you were 10, you had a lifelong immunity to a dozen different viruses because your parents weren't afraid of a few spots. We didn't wait for a needle to protect us. We let nature run its course. We let our bodies figure it out. And then there was the school nurse. Think back to the clinic at your elementary school. It wasn't a high-tech medical facility. It was a chot room with a single cot covered in a scratchy paper sheet and a woman who looked like she'd survived the Great Depression. If you went to the nurse in 1975, you didn't get a referral. You didn't get a prescription. You got one of two things: a wet paper towel or a cup of warm salt water. If you had a stomach ache, warm salt water. If you had a fever, wet paper towel. If you had a broken arm, wet paper towel until your dad could pick you up. The school nurse wasn't there to heal you. She was there to determine if you were actually dying or just trying to get out of a spelling test. And 9 times out of 10, she'd send you back to class with a pat on the shoulder and a reminder that pain is just the body talking. We weren't coddled. We weren't told that every discomfort was a catastrophe. We were told to walk it off. And you know what? Most of the time we did. This brings us to the antibacterial obsession, or the complete lack of it. In 1974, the only thing that was antibacterial was bleach, and you only used that once a week to scrub the bathroom floor. We didn't have hand soap that killed 99.9% of everything. We had a bar of ivory soap that sat in a little dish, getting soft and mushy. 10 different people would use that same bar of soap and nobody died. We didn't have touchless faucets. We didn't have hand sanitizer dispensers at every door. We allowed the world to be dirty, and because of that, our bodies didn't overreact to every speck of pollen or dust. We didn't have nut-free tables in the cafeteria. In 1974, a peanut was just a snack, not a biological weapon. We didn't have cat allergies because the cat lived in the house, on the bed, and on our laps from the day we were born. We have disinfected our environment, but in doing so, we have made our immune systems lazy. A lazy immune system is a dangerous one. It's like a standing army that hasn't seen combat in 20 years. The moment a real enemy shows up, it panics and starts firing at its own troops. That is what an allergy is. That is what an autoimmune disease is. In the 1970s, our internal army was always in the field. It was always in a skirmish. It was sharp. And finally, let's talk about the documentation. Today, your medical history is a digital file that follows you everywhere. If you have a sniffle, it's recorded. If you have a rash, there are 10 photos of it in a cloud server. We are hyper-aware of our health. In 1975, your medical history was a folder in a metal cabinet in a doctor's office that smelled like stale tobacco and rubbing alcohol. If you didn't go to the doctor, the sickness didn't happen. We didn't ruminate on our symptoms. We didn't Google our sore throat and find out we had 3 days to live. We just lived. We stood in the sun. We ate the steak. We drank the water from the hose. And we didn't get sick because our bodies were busy living life, not worrying about losing it. Looking back at 1974, we aren't just missing the youth. We are missing the resilience. We miss the body that didn't need a bio break every 2 hours. We miss the system that was built on sun, dirt, and real food. You rarely got sick in the 1970s because the world was your gym, the dirt was your vaccine, and your mother's kitchen was your pharmacy. We may be safer now, but we certainly aren't stronger. The bus is here, the bell is ringing, and the era of immunity is pulling away from the curb.